I thank the chair. I had hoped to be in the well this evening to offer an amendment to the pending legislation, the legislation under which the House of Representatives has been asked by the President of the United States to borrow $87 billion to continue to pursue the conflict in Iraq, and nearly $20 billion of that will be used to build Iraq. This isn't an issue of rebuilding Iraq, it's building Iraq. Many of the things that are included in this legislation will provide Iraq with infrastructure that they couldn't even have dreamed of before this war: wireless internet network, a 911 cellular system, new sewer systems, combined cycle turbines for their electricity. These are not things that were destroyed in the war. They're things that were neglected through 30 years of dictatorial rule by Saddam Hussein. And now we're being told that somehow it's the responsibility of the American people to borrow money to construct these projects, generally at an exorbitant price. I had hoped to offer an amendment, the American Parity Act, that Mr. Emanuel and I introduced early in the year, that would require that we match dollar for dollar the expenditures in Iraq with similar expenditures in the United States. For instance, under this legislation, we're going to invest, the United States of America is going to borrow on behalf of the American people and send $50 million more to Iraq to further improve their port, which is already a fully functioning port in which the American people have already invested $50 million since the war. But I have ports in my district that can't get a penny for dredging. Under this legislation, the United States Congress is going to borrow at the request of the President on behalf of the American people and send to Iraq tens of millions of dollars to pay Iraqis for no-show jobs, former members of the regime, former members of the military. They will be paid not to work. Yet the President tells us that we can't afford to draw down the $20 billion unemployment trust fund here in the United States of America and give extended unemployment benefits to Oregonians and others who have exhausted their benefits and cannot find a job through no fault of their own. We're going to give them a state-of-the-art energy infrastructure, despite the fact that the lights blinked out here in the eastern U.S. this summer. In my part of the country 2 summers ago, our whole system is underinvested in, unstable. But the Iraqis have, 1960s boilers, and Mr. Bremer's appalled. So we're going to purchase them brand new combined cycle turbines at exorbitant prices to be installed by Halliburton and others, to give them a state-of-the-art energy infrastructure with money borrowed from the American people. The American people are going to borrow money and spend tens of millions of dollars to buy new AK-47s for the police force of Iraq. We couldn't even have a Buy America provision and give them M16s or something made in the United States of America. These are not going to the American people. I don't believe they're going to protect our troops. What our troops need, or they need the flak vests, they need the armored Humvees, they need, rides all the way home. They need some basic things they're not getting, and none of the billions in this bill are going to that either. But this amendment that I would have offered, I went to the Rules Committee and I asked to have it made in order. I said, just allow us a vote. All we want is a simple vote, up or down. So the members of this House think it's at least as important to invest in the economic reconstruction and stimulation in this country, putting people to work, unemployment benefits, roads, bridges, highways, hospitals, schools, health care. That would have been a statement from this Congress, where we would have put more than 1 million people back to work by matching the investment in Iraq. But I've been shut down by the Republican majority, the Republican Rules Committee, and I will not be allowed to offer that amendment. And that's too bad, because I think a large majority of the American people would support such an amendment. There's been a lot of hypocrisy here tonight. People who said they were for supported loans instead of grants, but then when they were given finally an opportunity to vote for a loan instead of a grant, those who stood bravely here and said they would support a loan instead of a grant and were denied a vote by the Republican majority, their own party, when they were given a chance to vote on a Democratic amendment for loans versus grants, they voted no. And I hope they're held to account by their constituents. And I hope people are held to account by their constituents for the fact that this House, the People's House, the Republican majority, are refusing to allow us to vote on matching investments, investing in our country, in our people, in our infrastructure, in our economy, at least comparable to that which we're borrowing to invest in Iraq. With that, I yield back the balance of my time.
Mr. Burton from Indiana.